What if I told you one of the most important inventions in North Carolina history wasn't a car, a plane, or a railroad, but a flour mill? For more than a century, farmers brought their grain to this building. They came to make flour, buy supplies, exchange news, and connect with their fellow community. Today, we're stepping inside the China Grove roller mill to discover how one machine helped transform agriculture across the Piedmont. You hear that? That's the echoes of freedom. What's up, historians? Today we're in China Grove, North Carolina, standing in front of one of the best preserved industrial landmarks of the state. This is the China Grove Roller Mill. At first glance, it might just look like an old brick building, but for generations of farmers, this place stood at the center of their daily life. For more than 100 years, the mill operated continuously, grinding grain, producing flour and cornmeal, and serving as a gathering place for the agricultural community that surrounded China Grove. To understand why this place mattered, you have to understand farming in the late 1800s. For centuries, grain was ground using massive millstones. The process worked, but it was slow and often produced coarser flour. Then came new technology, the roller mill. Instead of grinding grain between stones, roller mills used a series of steel rollers and to crush and separate the grain. The result was cleaner, finer flour that could be produced more efficiently and sold at higher prices. The roller process began spreading across America in the late 1800s and helped modernize agriculture. The China Grove Roller Mill Company was organized in the in the 1890s by local businessmen and farmers during a period of agricultural growth here in Rowan County. The original mill was built back in 1896, and the impressive brick structure standing behind me today was constructed in 1903 to replace that earlier building. At the time, this was just cutting edge technology. This wasn't just another mill, it represented industrialization of farming in North Carolina. Keep in mind, this is during the American Industrial Revolution between roughly the 1880s to about 1920. For local farmers, it meant they could process grain more efficiently and compete in a changing economy. So, imagine arriving here in 1910 with a wagon loaded of corn or wheat pulls up outside. Workers unload sacks of grain and send them through a maze of elevators, conveyors, and sifters and steel rollers. The building hums with activity. Belts spin overhead, machinery rattles, the smell of flour fills the air. As grain moved floor to floor, it was cleaned, crushed, sifted, and packaged into finished products ready for sale. Remarkably, much of the original machinery still survives today, and visitors can see the equipment inside this mill that powered it for all its working years. But this place isn't just about flour, it was a community hub. Farmers came here not only to process grain, but also to buy seeds, fertilizer, feed, and supplies. While waiting for their grain to be milled, they exchanged news, discussed crops, and caught up with neighbors. In many ways, this mill functioned as both a business and social center for the region. Long before social media and smartphones, places like this were where communities stayed connected. What's even more remarkable is that this mill survived. Many similar mills across North Carolina disappeared as technology changed and agriculture modernized. Yet the China Grove Roller Mill continued operating for more than a century and remains one of the best preserved examples of early 20th century roller mill in the state. It was later recognized for its historical significance and listed on the National Register of Historic Places. Today, it stands as a reminder of the period when North Carolina was transforming from a largely agricultural society into an industrialized one. So, standing here, it's easy to focus on machinery, the gears, the belts, the rollers, but the real story is always about the people, the farmers who worked the land, the families who depended upon successful harvests, the workers who kept the machinery inside this building running, and the community that grew around this building. The China Grove Roller Mill reminds us that history isn't always made on battlefields or in government buildings. Sometimes history is made in places where ordinary people come together to work, trade, and build a future. So remember, historians, every bag of flour that left this mill carried more than grain. It carried the story of the community, of the people here of China Grove. And that is the story of the China Grove Roller Mill. As always, if you have a place that we should visit, head over to our website, www.echoesofreedom.us, and share your locations for us to come take a story of. Maybe it's the China Grove Mill. We would love to come check it out. And if you would like to leave a donation to help continue to power and fuel our Echoes of Freedom mission, every dollar counts, putting fuel in our vehicles and giving us finances to be able to do longer overnight trips and restoration operations where we can go out and restore historic sites back to their original glory as best as we can and with modern technology. You can do all of that at the website. Make sure you follow all of our socials, and as always, we will see you on the next adventure.